Hello, welcome or welcome back, depending on if you're new here. Today, I'm back with a watercolor travel spread. I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm happy to be back at it again. If you haven't seen any of my travel journal spread videos before, every time I come back from a trip, I like to paint a sketchbook spread of some of my favorite moments and places. Over the last couple of years, it's become one of my favorite ways to preserve memories from a trip. It's fun to be able to look back on them, and often they end up pushing me to try painting subjects that I wouldn't normally have gone for on my own. I do like to paint on site when I can, but usually when I'm traveling, I'm with other people and I don't really have the time to sit and paint, so instead I take a lot of reference photos and videos to paint later on. For this spread, I'm jumping right in with my ink pen for the ink layer, and then I'll go back and watercolor it after. I found myself incorporating ink pen more and more over the last several months, and I've really been enjoying it. I'm painting these in my Etch Your Perfect sketchbook. This is 100% cotton paper, and I love using it for these travel spreads because it's really nice paper and it handles the watercolor really well. And then I'm using my regular studio palette for the color choices. So I'll link the supplies below in case you're interested in checking them out, and if you have any questions on specific colors that I'm using, feel free to leave those in the comments. So this time I'm painting Charleston, South Carolina. I was there for a few days between Christmas and New Year's, and I had never been to Charleston before or South Carolina at all, so I was really excited. I'd heard a lot of good things from friends and family who had been, and they were so right. This city is so pretty. The buildings, especially in the French Quarter, which is where we were for most of our time, are just so lovely to look at. And I'm New York based, so it was kind of weird to only have to wear a light jacket at the end of December. It was also interesting to see Christmas decorations up, just because I think my mind has such strong associations of what the general vibe is when it's Christmas time. So it was so odd to think that this is just the norm for Christmas there. Anyway, it was beautiful. There's a ton of bright and beautiful buildings, so if you're into nice architecture, it's definitely a fun place to be. We had some incredible food. We got there mid-morning on a fairly rainy day. We had pretty nice weather aside from this day, but it was very gray and rainy on that first day. So after having a nice brunch, we decided to head over to the USS Yorktown, which is on the bottom left side of this spread. If you're not familiar, the USS Yorktown is an aircraft carrier ship that was built during World War II, and it is now a floating museum that you can walk around and see the interior and also see some old planes that are on the main deck. There's some space-related stuff, and I am not usually a person who's super interested in military-related things, but it was still cool to be able to see and walk around this huge ship that has just been through so much. There are a couple of paths below deck that you can take, and it's like a huge maze where you get to see all the different kinds of rooms that they have in a ship and what each was used for and what they used to look like and what a typical bunk was for the people on board and all of that. There's a bunch of exhibits where you can read stuff about the battles that the ship was involved in, and there are, of course, memorials. I'm glad we went because, when else are you gonna be on a military aircraft carrier, you know? Anyway, so aside from a short walk around the French Quarter to go get dinner, that was really our first day. The second day started with a carriage tour through the city. I was a bit skeptical of this at first because I'm New York based, and in the city, if you're not careful, the horse carriages there are super scammy, and I worry about the horses and like if they're okay. But the Charleston ones, I guess, are regulated by the city, and they monitor the health of the horses and like have a bunch of regulations for if it's too hot and like how much rest they have to have, and they have to be able to, like, I don't know, have horse vacations and have a bunch of stuff in place to protect them. So I'm sure that they're super annoying for anyone who actually lives in Charleston, and that if I lived there, I would hate them. But as a tourist, it was a really fun way to see some of the city and get the lay of the land and the history from the guide. Obviously, there's a lot of complicated history in this city, especially when it comes to slavery, so it was important to kind of learn about that as well and not just, walk around looking at pretty buildings. So this first white tower on the left side of the spread is part of St. Michael's Anglican Church, which we passed on our tour, and it's part of Charleston's like Four Corners of Law. In the past, I think that I would have avoided trying to paint or draw a building like this because I'd be worried that it was too complicated for me to be able to paint or draw in a way that I liked, but I'm actually really happy with how it came out, and that was really kind of a moment of like, ooh, nice growth for me personally. But anyway, so that's what this first white tower is on the left side. After our tour, we went over to the city market, which is the other building on the left side of the spread. This is a really long but skinny market that runs through several blocks, and it is full of handmade goods and small businesses and everything from jewelry, artwork, clothes, sculptures, food, all of that kind of stuff. And in the middle of the market is a place called Callie's Hot Little Biscuit, which had been recommended to me to try because I love biscuits. So, of course, we had to go, and they were delicious, especially the cinnamon ones. They also had an option for grits in a biscuit bowl, and as a bread bowl enthusiast, I absolutely had to get this, and I did, and it was delicious. A lot of biscuits were consumed that afternoon. And after the market, we stopped through a bunch of the art galleries. There are so many art galleries in the French Quarter, and they are all so incredible to poke around in. My favorite gallery was one that we stopped in on after the market, and it's called the Robert Lang Gallery or Robert Lang Studio. And it had such a cool vibe. Plus, you got to see the studio of two of the artists who exhibit there, one of them being Robert Lang, and one of the other ones is Nathan Durfee. And everything in there was so creative and inspiring, and we almost walked right by it, so I'm so glad we ended up going inside. I would definitely recommend that you check out the gallery if you're ever in that area. And then, so on the right side of the page, we have Rainbow Row and the Pineapple Fountain, both of which are also in the French Quarter. Rainbow Row is exactly what it sounds like. It's a row of pretty houses that are all painted in fun colors. And it's not far from the park along the water, which is where the Pineapple Fountain is. So at that park, you can actually see the USS Yorktown, but from the other side of the water, which is fun because like you just really get a sense of how huge that thing is. So both of these two things, Rainbow Row and Pineapple Fountain, are pretty big Charleston landmarks that were fun to draw and also really fun to see. And our last full day in Charleston was New Year's Eve. So we had a late New Year's dinner reservations, and I've never celebrated New Year's like that at a restaurant with a meal. It was so nice. It's a very chill and delicious way to ring in the new year, and I was with my family, so it was just a really nice family moment, and the restaurant was celebrating with live music, and they brought out champagne for the countdown, and So that's these glasses in the middle of the right side of the spread. It was so fun. I would definitely do something like that again. I think it's just a really, really chill and nice way to celebrate a new year. And then this last image on the bottom right is the hotel that we stayed at, which is called the Vendu. And I wanted to draw it because it's a really cool hotel. The inside is full of art and it had a great vibe. And they actually have tours that they offer of the art pieces in the hotel. I think a lot of them were on sale, but they had such cool pieces all throughout the hotel, and I guess that they do offer this tour. We weren't able to do it. I kind of wish that we had been able to, but the timing didn't work out. So that's this last image on the bottom here. And yeah, so that's my favorite moments of this trip. I would absolutely go back and explore more one day, and I would really like to be able to do some sort of nature stuff in the area. There were a few things that sounded fun but weren't available because it was December. And so, yeah, if you've ever been to Charleston, please leave your favorite spots in the comments and your favorite food spots too. I didn't really talk about the food itself here, but we had some truly incredible meals on this trip. So I'd love to hear your recommendations, especially also for nature stuff, whether that's hiking or kayaking or anything like that. If you've watched any of my travel spread videos before, I'm sure you can already tell that I love to hike, so welcoming all of those recommendations. If you've stuck with me this long, thank you. I really appreciate you. Please leave a like and consider subscribing if you want to see more from me. If you're interested in any of the supplies that I used, I will put them in the description along with a link to my other travel spreads. And yeah, here we have the finished spread. I am super happy with how this came out. I think I pushed myself with what I chose to draw and how I chose to draw it, and I think it was worth it because this will make me super happy to look back on. So that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.